Test 1, 2, 3. There.
Okay. Now we have audio.
If you're watching this is a recorded live stream, which means it'll take a few minutes before we officially start the episode. Please feel free to enjoy watching us prepare as we manually reshare links to all our friends.
Or skip ahead. There is no formal skip button. Maybe we'll get around to marking the place. Oops, what am I doing? Creating a new post. Wait. If you're watching this on Facebook, did you know that this is also on YouTube? If you're watching this on YouTube, did you know this is also on Facebook? If you're watching this on Vimeo, how? We're not there. Oh my gosh, I'm off. When your fingers aren't aligned right, and then you're typing, and then it's just wrong, and then it keeps coming out wrong.
Yeah, I get that. I have those moments too. Okay, YouTube feed is coming in here.
It's board game day. It's a board game day because it's a Monday. There's something not quite stuck in my throat, but it feels like coated with something. I don't know.
Like that. Facebook feed is running.
Oh, sorry, we're being super silent. Yeah, we're just.
Facebook is acting like.
Really?
Yeah, it's not responding to my clicks.
Oh no. Is it also because of the notification sometimes? I get that bug. Where like if there's a Facebook in-app notification in the lower left corner, then it won't let me click stuff. Like I have to resolve that notification.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guess what we're gonna talk about today?
I know I already approved your
Tag.
I don't see it. I'll just load this one. Okay. Okay.
Yep, I'm bouncing off this ring light, then I'm bouncing off that ring light. This ring light, that ring light. Yeah, we're just about to start. If you're watching live, feel free to comment in the chat. We're an interactive stream. Love to hear from all of you.
Okay, timer's ready. Board games on the table. I guess we can start.
Sure. I just need to spend my energy. All right. I will roll credits. We'll be right back after this introduction.
Oh yeah! Really right.
This is Toby.
And this is Rocky.
And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy, our little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
It is completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us as we talk about everything and anything random live.
And if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for joining us again. Every Monday we talk about games, and this Monday, if you can't tell, we're talking about one of the games we've been playing longer than we've owned it.
Yes, which is funny. I guess at least longer than we've owned physical copies, right?
True.
Because we had other ways, which is Neuroshima Hex. Neuroshima Hex. We're going to mangle the name. Was created by Michał Oracz of Portal Games, and it's actually based on a tabletop RPG called Neuroshima RPG, which was the brainchild of Ignacy Trzewiczek, who we love, and other folks like Michał Oracz. But so this is a whole separate thing, but based in that universe.
The game is a post-apocalyptic game wherein you command armies as you try to take control and defeat the enemy headquarters or units, depending on the faction you're fighting. And it's quite different from what people will expect from usual games. Most people are used to games with miniatures or area control games wherein you place all these small tokens in a small space. Neuroshima Hex, however, finds a new way to approach a tactical combat game.
It celebrates everybody's favorite shape in tabletop games, which is the hexagon, and it gives you different armies, which are represented by cardboard hexagonal tiles with very different art. There is an app version for this, which is why we were saying that we've been playing it longer than we've owned it, because we started exploring the app at different points in time. And for me personally, maybe not for Toby, but I had such a hard time wrapping my head around the game just based on the app. And it probably didn't help that I didn't super read the rules. You know how it is when it's a mobile game, then you're like, I'm just gonna figure it out. And I couldn't quite figure out what we were doing. It's only recently that now that we have expanded to get really all of the physical versions I've super fallen in love with this game. Okay. To be precise though, the current main version of Neuroshima Hex is actually Neuroshima Hex 3.0, because there are other versions. In fact, these two are older versions of the game. When they were still published by Zeman Games. This is the old base set for Neuroshima, and then Babel gives you the first two expansion armies, the Steel Police and Neo Jungle. Okay.
Since these are older, we are not focusing on them.
Bye.
Let's focus on the new baby.
Yeah, so there was a pre-order campaign because 2020 was the year of Moloch, and Moloch is essentially your evil AI race. It is like Skynet, and specifically Moloch, I think, came into full power on September 5 in 2020. So last year was the year of Moloch, and they released this Year of Moloch edition, which is essentially a carrying case. Although it had new art and prettier tiles for the 4 main armies of the game, it also included spaces for, I think, the 19 expansion armies available at the time. And I say at the time because, as is tradition with Portal Games, every day of the Moloch, they release a new expansion. The latest being Beasts, which I have pre-ordered, which is not here and does not have a space in this box. Okay, but let's talk about the game. All right. How would you describe Neuroshima Hex, Toby?
So Neuroshima Hex uses different mechanics in terms of representing the battle between different factions on a single board. It uses area majority and influence. Connections matter in this game. There's grid movement. There's the basic systems of hand management, although officially
Tiles.
you don't have a hand.
Yeah, you just have tiles. A few tiles in front of you.
There's a hexagon grid that serves as the main battlefield wherein you and the other players fight in, which is very tight once you have more than 2 players fighting.
Yes.
Then you have other mechanisms from line of sight, solitaire systems, team-based play, tile placement, and variable player powers. The base set, when you get the base set, comes with 4 armies at the start. It's if this is correct,
Yeah, Borgo, the Hegemony,
or the hegemony. The hegemony, Moloch,
and
and
the Outpost. Yes.
Each army consists of 34 tiles, and the tiles are split between soldiers, support tiles, and special actions. Basically, in this game, you win if you destroy the enemy headquarters, but that's assuming that faction has won.
Yeah, typically that means reducing their. Oh, it's that's a cool angle. Look, you can see all of Moloch.
Yes.
It's traditionally most factions have an HQ which has 20 hit points, and your goal is to reduce that HQ down to 0 or to the lowest possible score. Because if either player runs out of army tiles to play, then the game is also over.
Mhm.
And you'll just figure out scores from there based on like whose HQ has more hit points.
So let's open the box and see what the game has in store for us.
Yeah, we could have done an unboxing of this one, but then admittedly it was like storagey. So the year of the Moloch edition comes with these very helpful, very glossy player guides, and look how thick, because there are so many factions. Okay, it comes with a special mini campaign for 2 players, which is Moloch the Beginnings. Yeah, I can't. And then, but for reference, these are the original expansion manuals. If you are wondering about them, because we got to get the individual expansions. Your new rulebook, for the game, but it also comes with a dedicated FAQ booklet for like most of the army interactions and things to date.
Mhm.
But then we get to the really pretty part. First is the board. It is a double layer board. This part is recessed, this red area. The red area represents the main sort of army area that you'll use. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. But in like a 4-player game, you'll be able to use actually these outer hexes. And then these circles on the side are a score track starting from 20, hence where the bases are. And you'll put your little tokens that came with this set to mark accordingly, which is very, very cool. And Mitch is here. Hey, yes, and it's a new game. Yeah, we haven't really celebrated this game also during our game night. So now it's like this super, super fun.
So
Okay.
let's take a peek at the box.
So this edition is essentially just a storage container. So this is like all the different expansions. It came with these additional tokens that you can use to track your scores. Each token, and I'll try to hold up one, will show the symbol of the faction, which is very, very nice. And they kind of tuck in with little sleeves, little bits there. Hence, you have things like Dancer that have multiple things. Lots and lots of tokens from the expansions and stuff. Sadly, look, I have a hole because there is one mini expansion called the Doomsday Machine, which we still don't have, but I have already ordered it. It's on its way. So there's one more expansion now called Beasts. I don't know where it's gonna go, so it'll have to find its own home. But this is essentially Neuroshima Hex as of 2020. This is all the expansions, and each of these armies are present. And then you'll notice these slightly higher stacks because these are the base factions with this edition of the game that comes with extra thick cardboard, and they're like extra glossy. I can't quite catch the reflective thing, but very, very cool. Very, very cool. I super recommend if you still have a chance to get the Year of Moloch edition. Yay. Okay, so game overview. I guess you can put it down first so that's easier. How? One thing we kind of wish though with this hex grid is that it is only a double layer with like this entire red part is recessed, but it doesn't have individual containers per hex, which could have been useful. I get it because that's a lot more cost. It's gonna be hard to maintain over this big an area. Plus the mini campaign has additional components that go. So I get why this happens. So basically, depending on your factions, you'll start by placing your HQ. You know it's your HQ because it has these little triangles on the side, and like say, I'll put mine here, and then the other guy will be here, and then things will start. Sorry, that wasn't very visible because it's hard when you're holding it. All right. So let's kind of go over the token types, I guess.
Yeah, I guess
I'm trying to figure out how to do the walkthrough.
we jumped around a lot of stuff.
Yeah. But basically, so you have your HQ, and your HQ is one of the first tiles you'll see. But it also notice that each side of the hexagon has a triangle on it. So this is one of the many attack symbols in the game. Depending on the unit, it does damage. So the HQ can attack people around it, which is a melee attack. There are other examples like the long pointy arrow here.
Mhm.
So like this is a ranged attack if it's these longer, narrower ones. And there are even funky special ones like this one has nets on them that look like
Mhm.
chicken wire. That has a different effect. So depending on the units that you have, it can have one or more of these symbols on their sides, and thus figuring out placement becomes all the more important. Your your basic turn will be, in the later part of the game is drawing up to 3 tiles so that you have a maximum of 3 tiles open in front of you. It's not even a secret hand. It is visible to all players. And then your first action is to discard one of those tokens and you don't get to use them. Then you can play uh, one or both of those tokens. You can discard the remaining tokens if you want. Um, and that's sort of your turn. But nothing immediately happens just by placing the army units around. And I think you've pulled out some tiles, maybe
Yeah, so a single faction is usually composed of a number of tiles.
34.
The tiles vary in number depending on the faction. As mentioned, there are tiles which are units. There are tiles which are the HQ. You have tiles which are units, which tend to be artwork that have symbols surrounding them. The symbols range from what they can attack to any other special powers they may have, as well as a number which represents the speed or initiative value of that unit. Faster units get to attack first. If units have more than one number, then they actually attack multiple times.
The higher the number, the faster the unit.
Other tiles you have would be tiles like this one.
Instant
These
action.
are these tiles show symbols, and they're basically actions that you can take if you choose to play them. Some symbols allow you to move units into a new position, rotate them. Other tiles allow you to activate a battle sequence,
or push units away.
and then others push units away. Finally, you have what we call modules, and they tend to appear like this. Important in the modules are the symbol in the center, which represents what bonus they give, as well as the connectors, as you can see here, which are those gray areas. Because their position on the board then determines if there are units connected to that area, and connected units benefit from that bonus. So, a lot of the game is about deciding where to place what type of tile and when to activate what type of action. Because unlike board games or tactical games like chess, wherein you have to ponderously move towards the opponent from your side of the board, in Neuroshima Hex, it's almost like what was that real-time strategy game, Warhammer, where you just drop into wherever you want to fight.
So yeah, so you can literally place your units anywhere on the board,
including beside the enemy headquarters immediately.
Yes.
Because units don't attack yet until someone's trigger battle. And the moment someone triggers battle, things get quite crazy.
This is the battle explodey symbol.
Would you like to explain battle?
So it's a funny thing just for a moment when you in terms of the play experience, because you have all this, I put this unit and then I put this unit and then Toby puts this unit and stuff. Then it gets very exciting. But if nobody played a battle token, nothing's happening.
They're all just moving into position.
Yeah, they're all just sitting there. And then it's worse when some units inherently have like the ability to move around, or you can use those instant action tokens we showed earlier to move around. And then it just gets worse because like you think you're setting up this elaborate like thing that once I have a battle token, everybody gonna go pew 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 pew. But no, they keep moving, and this is part of the brilliance of the game.
Mm-hmm.
When battle does start, you will resolve battle in initiative order, starting from the highest initiative, and everybody in that same initiative attacks at the same time, as long as they're not like disabled for some reason. Um, all of that damage is resolved, and typically a unit can only take 1 point of damage unless they have special symbols on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get discarded immediately, and then we move to the next highest initiative, and then resolve all their attacks, and then move on and move on until you get to initiative 0, which is where the HQs are, and they also get to execute attacks as a last hurrah. So it's very simple in principle.
Mm-hmm.
It's draw up to 3 tiles, discard a tile, play tiles, whether on the board or as instant actions, and then if someone triggers battle, we resolve. And if someone's HQ gets below, gets to 0, before you run out of tiles, the game is over.
Mm-hmm.
If you run out of tiles, then we just compare whose base has taken the most damage.
Now, to help keep track of all these things happening, the game does include tokens such as these.
That's a wound token.
Various tokens are present for the different factions to represent different things they can do. The Vegas faction, for example, can buy units and take over them for an amount of time.
It's so funny.
Other units have nets, which render the enemy unit immobile and useless until further notice.
Yep. The Iron Gang has a special mechanic of chains because they're literally a biker gang, and
two opposite chains can deal damage to anything in their path.
Oh my gosh. And it's crazy. There's a zombie faction that keeps coming back on the board.
Mhm.
There's the Moloch faction, which is unusually hardy. Like almost all of his units take 2 points to kill, so it's very annoying.
And then currently my favorite, even if I'm still losing, is the Dancer faction, which only has 3 units and no headquarters.
Because the 3 units are the headquarters.
So you have to master using all 3 to help each other out and defeat the enemy.
I'm very worried once Toby fully figures out, because this is what happens when Toby falls in love with something, and then he's just going to figure it out, and then I'm never going to be able to defeat him. I only swarmed him that one time. I defeated him with Dancer.
So the Year of Moloch is a great choice if you want to get started with the game because it already comes with so many.
Well, spaces for so many. You still have to buy the individual expansions, but it looks so pretty once you do. And then each of these little wells have the symbol for the faction at the bottom so that you know where they go, and you get the custom marker. I don't know what's gonna happen for all future releases for this game because then like the Beast faction doesn't have a space and doesn't have the special score token.
Maybe they'll have a bigger box or something, similar to a certain other game line that has a bigger box.
How dare you?
Other features from older expansions, such as Babel, include turtles add more tactics to the game. Interestingly, Board Game Geek does list that all previous editions are compatible with the future
Technically
editions
speaking.
because generally it's only the artwork that has changed.
Yes, and that is a crazy kind of revelation. The environment tiles, whatever the terrain, were turned into tokens
Small tokens
in
just
the
to
later
market.
edition. Yeah, which I have. So that's still cool. Mitch was comparing it to maybe like Scythe if no one will battle. In this case, battle is inevitable. Ever filled up with units entirely, it automatically triggers a battle, which is what happened when I had that damn zombie faction, Death's Breath. I couldn't help but trigger battle because my units kept coming back. So part of the fun was definitely figuring out that this tactical maneuvering. I'm not a big chess fan, but I enjoy this
Mhm.
because it probably scratches a similar itch of it feels like chess. It feels like that literal pitting one another against each other, but because of the uniqueness of each army, and each army brings something different to the table, then it just changes the game. So like things like the faction that Toby likes, which is Dancer. Um, you only have 3 units in the game. Excuse me, and you're gonna have to figure out how to win with only those 3 units.
Mhm.
And if that's not enough, there's a similar faction called Mephisto, which is literally a giant bug in the sand who only has 1 unit, which is his HQ, but then all of his other tiles are like extensions of
Represents their
him.
parts.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of fun. And then, um, and I like the half the fun is figuring out how each of the faction works and
Mm.
trying to figure out what the strategy is for it. um, so like for example, when I played Iron Gang, it was so weird because I wanted to control the outer edge of the map
Mhm.
so that my chains could go across and do damage. Whereas when I used the Smart faction, which is like this other robot faction spin-off from Moloch, their emphasis was speed and stuff, and that only works if their HQ was only units adjacent to the HQ get a bonus move. So forward, when Toby used the outpost, the same thing. He had all of his units next to the HQ were gaining these bonus attacks, and it was so annoying.
Mhm.
So that is really the the fun of this franchise, and given how it is developed over the years since what the 3.0 edition came out looking in 2006, and then there's still the older editions, and the game just continues to get deeper and deeper in terms of complexity and richness of strategy, that it is a very rewarding experience. Okay.
The game has had over 8 publishers throughout its experience. It has had multiple editions. It even
Multiple
has
languages.
a digital version in Tabletopia. Um, there was even a re-implementation of the system for something called Monolith Arena, which had a much shorter lifespan, despite drawing from the same game elements.
Yeah.
But I
And
think,
funnily, sorry, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but Monolith Arena featured a weird mechanic of a this tower with multiple units, which is your monolith.
mm,
There is a Neuroshima Hex expansion that lets you add monoliths to the game, which kind of made it even more like, then why will you buy Monolith Arena when you can have Neuroshima Hex? Hard to say. I bought the tiles already;
mm,
they're on their way. So, but yeah, so um, but and this is just one of the many games that Portal has done that are connected to this Neuroshima universe they've
mm,
created. There's things like 51st State, which is something that played heavily towards inspiring things like Imperial Settlers, which is funny to realize.
mm,
Um, and there's like Neuroshima Convoy,
which also has a digital version.
yes. And there was Neuroshima Tactics, which is a tactical miniatures game. So this franchise is very rich and has been around for a while. But
Mm,
um, Hex definitely occupies a very particular space in life where it is definitely a lot of fun, and I see why the franchise continues. That why they can continue to add a faction almost every year, because there is still so much there's still so much game left in this, and it that doesn't get entirely tiring, and more importantly, it plays very fast. The box rates it as about 30 minutes, and I
mm.
think this is a fair assessment. Once you like know your factions, it's a very fast game,
Mhm.
and that makes it faster than chess. So Mitch has a question. Which faction is a good pair for battle and which are not so good? It's I cannot give an absolute answer. Each faction certainly has unique advantages, but it's very possible that depending on who you're facing, it won't make sense. For example, no, not even. I don't know. I don't know. Because like I guess things like the zombie faction Death's Breath relies on killing stuff a lot,
Mm.
and if your units are tougher, then I guess it's harder for them to get more zombies on the board. Um, but then I don't know if that's really a big problem, because modules count, and you can kill modules, and they count as extra kills and stuff. So so um yeah, so I don't think there's anything absolute in terms of like one faction to rule them all, because even the difficult factions like Dancer could be very dangerous in the right hands. So I wouldn't put it past you. The base 4 expansions will state which ones are like easier easier to play with versus the others. I think Moloch is one of the easier ones just because it's like they're just tough and then they have a very straightforward strategy. And I think Outpost is the most difficult in the base for factions. Okay. Older versions. So, what else to cover about this? So, I guess I'm making it very difficult to talk about strategy later on because it's such a diverse game. And admittedly, we still haven't played all the factions that we have. I got all the expansions in preparation for receiving the Year of the Moloch edition, and then when I did get it, that's the only time I unboxed the expansions and played the others. So we did have a marathon game night around the time of my birthday to make the most of the set and play with as many factions as we could, and it was such an interesting evening. All right, what else would you like to share, Toby? Ooh, Mitch asking, good for beginners. What are your thoughts?
I haven't played enough to know.
Mm. It's tricky. It's tricky. I mean, I guess it depends. I mean, there are probably some people who are like naturally inclined toward tactical or strategy games, or people who like chess, who might flow into this really well, and then some others may have a harder time wrapping their heads around it. But there is no question this game is going to have you directly attacking one another. That is the premise of the game. So if you do not like that sort of head-to-head PvP action, this is not a good game for you. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much, but it was also because I couldn't understand the game initially. But now that we like played a good number of rounds recently, it's like, ooh, I see why. I see why this is such a thing, and I see why it's lasted this long. What else to be?
So I guess the only thing I can add is the RPG was available in English.
Ooh.
The RPG is available only in Polish, and Ignazi has been very clear in his one of no plans to translate it to English out there, and we have yet to find any of them. But the world is definitely a rich setting that offers a lot of opportunities. And given now how you have stuff like role playing game or Tales in the Loop having TV series, Exalted even, I would like, I would love it if this one gained some adaptations. It would be interesting to see a show based on this world.
And sure, it's like a distorted post-apocalyptic version of the United States, but strangely absent certain states. And there's a video that explains why. But it's a fascinating world. I mean, it is like a mishmash of different concepts. Maybe what started out as science fiction tropes, but then it eventually just came together in interplay of stuff. And we're getting a taste of the story through the game. If you apart from the base manual, like each comes with a full background of like explaining how it works and what their deal and it adds to the richness of it. And then I guess between and stuff, you get a bit more of the story because it's the same factions over and over again.
Each game can be as short as 20 minutes, but of course, your mileage may vary depending on this hits a player. But given you only have 3 tiles typically, because there might be factions that allow you to draw extra tiles, I think it shouldn't take too long compared to how some other games might have people calculating everything every turn.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the in hindsight, one of the really elegant things about the game is that weird decision process at the beginning of your turn. But the very first thing you need to do is get rid of one, which is painful because every tile seems useful, which is how it is. Or the tiles the tile now or wait later. But if you wait, then your other player may get 1 or 2 more units on the board, and so are you falling behind? And then there is that pressure to like always put something on the board every turn, but then sometimes you have to be careful and like figure out if it's gaminess of this really falls and just trying to figure out that balance. Okay. Mitch is asking if you will recommend this. People who played which game will love this. Hmm. What other tactical games have we played? Like the ones that we own, one is Tash Kalar, which you've
Mhm.
played. I haven't played. Would you compare it to Neuroshima Hex?
Um, Tashkalar is more about forming specific patterns on the board to get
Mm.
victory points. So it's very different, despite having a similar mechanic of filling a board.
Okay.
Um, in some ways, people who like Carcassonne will enjoy this because there's that level of you try to plan ahead on where you place the tiles,
Okay.
and you know that if you draw the right tile at the right moment, you can hit the combos you wanted.
That's fair.
So
This is also how aggressively we play
yeah,
Carcassonne. But I bet some people are like, Carcassonne? That pleasant like tile building game where you make farms and castles? Yeah. We all the gloves are off once
mm,
we see that another one player is starting to build very close to another player, hoping to join them in building their features. But
but
that's yeah.
but definitely players who are fans of miniature wargaming and the like will find this a surprising game experience because despite not having the fancy plastic molds and um, um, the need to measure distance officially with literally a measuring tape.
Mm,
This game still does hit certain miniature feels from line of sight, from facing and orientation. There are some that can actually shoot through other units and hit multiple targets in one blow.
there's
Um,
shoot through, there's shoot
mhm.
over.
There's the
Like
tactics
crazy.
of actually switching units in order to reposition. You can have some that act as shields, wherein they take the damage and keep the unit alive. So it's pretty comprehensive for something which mostly is just flat hexagon tiles.
Yeah, each expansion looks like an expansion deck of
Mm.
cards, but then it really just contains a few more sheets of these tiles, and then away you go and have fun with it. So it is a living, breathing game system. Still, it they continue to add to it. Like I said, they just announced the new Beasts expansion,
Mhm.
um, which adds this new animal faction, which I'm very intrigued by.
And then even beyond that, there are dozens of unofficial
Mm.
expansions that fans have created on Board Game Geek. Um,
Yeah, there's like was this I guess similar to like when you buy those chess books and then it's filled with like board configurations and then how will you get to mate in 10 moves. So it seems that there is a whole community of gamers who like to develop scenarios like that for Neuroshima Hex,
mhm.
and hence you have a whole thing called hex puzzles. uh Portal has released a few official hex puzzle sets on their own. I guess
Mm.
the easiest to get is the one for the Iron Gang, which is another deck and which we haven't tried yet, but it's we do have a copy.
And it looks like some of them actually got bumped into official status
Oh yeah, some
because
of the
Dancer is listed.
yes, some of the factions are started as fan things,
Mhm.
and then they were incorporated into the real universe. So if you do ever get into this game, feel free to also try to invent your own stuff and share it with the community because Portal Games is very active on Board Game Geek, and you might see your faction join the game in the future. Ha. All right. Any other questions from people watching? Thanks for Mitch. He's been like chiming in. I don't know if there's anything we can add for strategy. Is there anything you think we can add or like mention?
I think the only thing I can add is that this is a game wherein you will definitely find yourself playing better the more you play it.
Mm,
It's
mm,
not it's not a game wherein you can read the rules and master it immediately. The interplay of units against specific opponents forces you to rethink your tactics. And even in our games, since the tiles are distributed in a certain way, the number of units, the number of the modules, the number of actions, you will find yourself at times with a hand that you are not happy with,
yeah.
and finding ways around that, while in other games might seem frustrating, in here feels more like the rush and thrill of panic when you are in a fight and finding a new position to get yourself back into the advantage points. So I definitely enjoy this.
Yeah, and then I guess it helps to really take the time to study the faction you're playing.
Mm.
Whether you're just using the original manual materials, the expansion guides that come with each expansion, or the fancy player guides that come with the Year of Moloch edition.
Mhm.
um, I have found that whenever I'm playing, I am always double checking, like, oh my god, what does this guy do? How can I probably best use it? And more often than not, the little expansion manual or the player guides will also tell you how many of each unit there is, which
Mm.
is important to know as you're figuring out, can I sacrifice this unit as my mandatory discard because I have another copy later on, or I will throw it even though I know I'm never going to get it again because I really need this other thing.
Mm.
And that kind of decision making is oddly thrilling.
Yeah.
So I've been keeping Neuroshima Hex on the dining table only because I keep thinking, like, if we have time for a quick game, we can play a round or two before bed because it's it's so easy to just jump into. Um, and then because the symbology has generally been consistent across the factions, then it's kind of easy enough to pick up fundamentally what a faction is about. Although each will definitely have something unique about it, a unique symbol, a unique token, a unique mechanic. That's the only part that you have to understand. Um, but yeah, there's just a whole lot of potential for fun if you dive in fully into this universe. Okay. Um, I guess, is that it? Is that our
Yeah.
Neuroshima X discussion? That wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. All right. Thanks for joining so far. Let's close up. So, if you have questions or suggestions for future episodes, you can fill up this Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. We decided to do this one because it is it's the day of Moloch yesterday. But we are glad to take requests for different board game discussions, or actually game discussions on Mondays. We do lean heavily on tabletop, but maybe if you find a game that we played, whether a computer game or something, we might be able to talk about it. You can follow us on Twitter, all Toby No Shade, RG Suniko.
You can also check out our blog, badaypride.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
So feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below. Let us know what you thought about this overview of the game. Do any of the factions excite you, or have you already played? Let us know what your favorite expansion is so far. And be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is Baduy Pride. Good night,